Welcome. Well, you are at home with Jim and Joy, and you are an important part of our EWTN family, and we are so delighted that you have welcomed us into your home. We certainly would love to hear from you, so send us an email with a question or a comment to jimandjoy@ewtn.com. Now today, our guest is Gretchen Crow. She is editor-in-chief at OSV News. She's the author of several books, including The Legacy of Mercy, which is a true story of murder and a mother's forgiveness, which we're going to be talking about on today's show. But first, we wanted to share another episode of EWTN's new series called James the Less with You. So today you want to tell them about this episode?
So we did an episode last time we were on. We have episode 2 entitled Canceled Again. So James has second thoughts about his new job and about Anne Marie. Let's take a look.
That guy really say you can't do it? Well, you can do it. You've got to open your eyes and see for yourself that the world is what you make of it. You've been overlooked for too long. Don't be like everyone else. Career happiness begins with yourself and ends with yourself. If you believe in yourself, you can do anything. How bad do you want it? How dedicated to you are you? Do you have faith in yourself? If not, forget about it. If you don't believe in yourself, how will anybody else? If you don't believe you can take charge of your life, then you need to take a step back and look in the mirror and know immediately everything there is to know, which is you are here for you, even if nobody else is. Today's podcast is brought to you by Protectorate Transnational, a safe space for your money.
Are you lost?
Oh, no. Just getting the lay of the land.
You must be Jimmy, the new guy.
It's James.
I'm Jonah. I run the soup kitchen here. This is from Father. Looks like Father's got big plans for you. St. Joseph, pray for Jimmy's work today. Amen.
That's James.
finished yet.
What? Oh, no, I was just... Father, maybe this isn't for me.
Because you're an atheist?
Everyone has their own truth, right?
Like this truth? I'm sick and tired of people who keep making excuses for not recycling. They need to stop offending Mother Nature. She just wants to keep her kitchen clean and nurture the whole planet.
How did you...
Went viral on the internet. Hard to miss.
I didn't know at the time how insensitive I was being to her. Mother Nature. I understand how harmful it is to assign the stereotypes of nurturing and cleaning to Mother Nature.
I'm deeply sorry and will strive to do better in the future.
I'm fired, right?
What do you think?
Canceled again, as usual.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Little, but I don't care. This job doesn't depend on internet posts. It depends on how handy a man you are.
Another beautiful episode, real episode. And you just gets this sense that the atheist James is really getting soaked by the presence of the Lord, and relationship growing there somehow, some way with Anne Marie, the priest, is just tremendous. To learn more and to watch the whole series, go to EWTN.com/JamesTheLess. All the episodes are there. Spread the word. And let's believe in God's drawing power to draw all of his children to himself. We'll be right back. Plenty more to come. Don't go away.
Welcome back. Well, our guest today is Gretchen Crow. She is the editor-in-chief at OSV News. She's the author of several books, including Legacy of Mercy, a true story of murder and a mother's forgiveness, which we will be talking about today. And this beautiful book is available at EWTNRC.com. And especially we wanted to talk about this because it is the season of Lent. And one of the things that we want to work on in our lives on this spiritual journey is that Jesus would come in. If, like on Sunday readings, we had about Jesus healing the blind man. Lord, show us any blind spots that are inside of us. Lord, any area in our lives and in our way where we are not being forgiving towards someone. If we're having some unforgiveness, Jesus, come with your great light and shine in. Well, Gretchen wrote this beautiful book, and we want you all to hear an amazing, rather magnanimous way that this woman, Rachel Muha, participated in love, mercy, and forgiveness. So, Gretchen, welcome to At Home with Jim and Joy. We're delighted to have you. And we first want you to tell our family a little bit about Gretchen and all the ways that God is using you, and then tell us how you came about to write this book.
Thank you so much, Joy. And Jim, it's wonderful to be with you again. I am currently professionally, I'm editor in chief of OSV News, which is a relatively new wire service offered by OSV. We started at the beginning of the year. And so we are writing on Catholic issues and issues that affect Catholics all around the country and all around the globe. So we are very busy, and we are just very blessed to be able to do this important work in the field of church communications.
Well, we thank God.
Um,
Go ahead. Go right ahead.
yeah. Per,
No, we-
uh, pers-
Go ahead, Gretchen.
Personally, I live in Fort Wayne, Indiana, with my wonderful husband and our three young children now. So we are very busy, but very blessed by the Lord.
Well, good. And we had your husband, Michael, on our show, and we enjoyed having a great interview with him about the book he wrote also. So tell our family how you came to write about this book and tell this story.
Yeah. So I had never heard of Rachel Muha a few years ago. She was known to one of the board members actually at OSV, Kevin Lowry, who lives in the Diocese of Columbus. And that's where Rachel lives and does her work. And he brought her story to us and said, you know what, Rachel is an incredible woman. She would make for a great book. And so we had some conversations, and I was in some of those conversations just kind of as a consultant, not really, in the position of the person who might be writing this book. And it kind of became more and more clear that, this would be a great, opportunity for somebody who had some, writing experience, journalism experience, to come and kind of dig into the story and figure out kind of what happened and tell Rachel's story to people, because it's a story that needs to be told. And so we were sitting around a table, and I said, well, there was kind of some silence after we came to that conclusion. And I said, well, I think I could do that. And they said, oh, good, great. And I said, well, I have to check with my husband because we have some other things going on. I was pregnant with our second child at the time. And I went home and I told my husband, I said, I am feeling very touched by this woman's story and her witness, and I would really like to work on this project. And he said, I think you're completely crazy, but I completely support you. And so that was such a gift to have his support, his encouragement, to be able to do this. To do this book, because it did take some time, speaking with Rachel, many interviews, and these are not unemotional interviews. I would be in tears usually by the end of every call with Rachel that we had, and speaking with her friends, speaking with her family, people who had been part of that terrible experience of Rachel's son, was not untaxing, so but it was such a great gift to be able to speak with them, to be able to tell Rachel's story.
Well, I appreciated in your book that you really did walk us into what we're talking about here. And I think we really need to do that. That what happened to Rachel's son, his friend, what took place, these murders. So what are we speaking about here? What is this event? We know that Rachel is kind of the standout in this, in the way of forgiveness and extending mercy, which is so appropriate during the season of Lent. The price that Christ paid this season of Lent and down the Via Dolorosa and upon the cross to forgive us. And he calls us, forgive others and you will be forgiven. But what are we speaking about here? What is the event? What's the history? What took place here? What's going on?
Yeah. So in May of 1999 at Franciscan University in Steubenville, Ohio, two young men, college-age men, were abducted from a house in Steubenville, just off campus, and they were driven into Pennsylvania, where they were horribly shot and killed and left for dead. They were the people who did the murders were two young men, two young Black men from Steubenville and from the Pittsburgh area, who it was a random act of violence. They had seen Brian Muha's car in the driveway of the house that he was staying in. So that's Rachel's 18-year-old son. And he was there with two roommates, one of whom was Aaron Land. And the two young Black gentlemen went into the house, and Brian was asleep on the couch, and interfered with their stealing of the car. They went in to get the keys, tried to find them, tried to steal the car. And Brian and Aaron, who came out of his room to help Brian, were horribly whipped, pistol whipped, and then eventually abducted and brought to a hillside in Pennsylvania where they were shot and killed. It was a horrific act of violence. These young men were very high on all sorts of substances and were very violent. And it was an act of which, Rachel Muha, and that's what this whole book is based around, is that she forgave Terrell and Nathan, who were the perpetrators of the crime. She forgave them before the body of her son Brian had even been found. So it took 5 days between the time where they had been abducted and murdered, between the time where they were found with this immense tri-state search where the young men were found dead. And it took that much time to find the bodies. But before the bodies were even found, Rachel had said, I forgive these men. And the ripple effects of that continue today.
Right, because the whole Steubenville community was out searching. They were having prayer rallies. They were, everybody in the community was so involved. They were going door to door. The ripple effect of how this impacted so many students and the faculty and to the president, to the chaplain, to everyone in the community, everyone participating, family members coming in and all that they could do. But before that, even before she knew that, those boys had even committed another crime, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, they had gone to Pittsburgh. They had tried to steal a car from a young woman. They had threatened physical violence on her. So yes, they were on a tear. And there was some good law enforcement work, and they were in custody within a couple of days. But there was a lot of work that was done to get to that point. And it doesn't make, having people in custody certainly does not make the act of forgiveness any easier.
Right.
When you say young, how old at the time of the crime were these two young men, and where were they from? Were they from the same place where this home is? What community did they come out of? How old were they at the time of the crime?
They were 18 years old. 18 years old, which is an incredible juxtaposition, right, between the two young men who were murdered and the two young men who did the murdering, right? And so from the different communities that they came from, the different life experiences that they had, and ultimately the different ways they did not experience love dictated the paths, right, of these two separate instances. So you have the young men, Nathan was from Steubenville, Terrell was from the Pittsburgh area. Their families were involved in drugs and violence. In fact, Nathan, he was a good kid, actually. He was kind of on the right path. But things happen in life. And if you don't have support systems, if you don't have people directing you toward the Lord, if you don't have people who are there to say, actually, when tragedy strikes, this is how you respond versus, kind of going on a downward spiral and giving into violence and drugs, you're going to end up doing what the people around you are doing. And so he was really affected by some things that happened in his own life, affected by the influence of people around him who told him that they cared for him, that they loved him, and so it's real tragedy all around to see. Of course, Brian and Aaron lost their lives, certainly, but the story is a story that tells a deeper narrative of just the poverty of love. What happens when there is a lack of love?
Yeah, because all four of them came from different worlds. By the time they were 18, they all had different life experiences from nature, from the way they were nurtured and the lack thereof being nurtured. Even the one young man responded to the other just because he told him, I love you, dude, right? And so that was what bonded him to this other human being, because he never heard that before. But he didn't know he was being seduced to do a greater evil.
Yes.
Just real quick, we're going to take a break in less than a minute, but introduce us to Chris, the brother of Brian, because he was a student there as well.
That's right. So Chris is a couple years older than Brian, a student at Franciscan University. He was kind of in seminary or considering the priesthood at the time. He now lives in the Virginia area with his wife and children. He's a lawyer. But he and Rachel are really the two people who gave me the deepest, most intimate knowledge of what happened to Brian in the aftermath. So he was another person whose great act of love and forgiveness, because of his mother's example, went on to lead the way as witnesses to a whole community of other people.
Thank you, Gretchen. We're going to take a break at this point, speaking with Gretchen Crow. The book is Legacy of Mercy. Legacy of Mercy, a true story of murder and a mother's forgiveness. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back. Speaking with Gretchen Crow about her book, Legacy of Mercy, a true story of murder and a mother's forgiveness. Gretchen, welcome back. And you were sharing a little bit about the formation or lack thereof of Nathan and Terrell, the young men, 18 years old, who killed these, two other young men. And Rachel's response is kind of the major teaching, here of forgiveness and of mercy. Speak a little bit about, I'm sure Rachel grew through this, but Rachel and the brother Chris both, what's their story? What kind of formation did they have that could lead them to this point to know that they had to forgive?
Mm-hmm. Well, Rachel, she would say she's no one special. First of all, she would say she, didn't have any particularly great faith, or she didn't have any particular knowledge that anybody else had. But, I would argue that she had the will, right, to live out what it means to love and what it means to forgive. Rachel, from the moment her children were first born, she told me a story about how when her son Chris was born, she was looking at him and she was thinking, now what? I've got this little baby. This
Yeah.
life is entrusted to me. What do I do? And being from the wonderful Catholic family that she's from and raised with, her family had taught her to have a devotion to Mary, and so she almost consecrated her children to Mary when they were born, and said, "Look, I need you, Mary. I need you to show me the way." And how profound
Yes.
did that become, right? When 18 years, after, when Brian was 18 years old, she's suddenly walking the way that Mary had walked with the loss of her own son, the murder of her own son. And so Rachel tried to fill Brian and Chris's childhoods with a love of Mary, with a love of the Lord, to establish in them a foundation of peace, of love, of forgiveness, of mercy, of all of those things that we are called to in our wonderful faith. She encouraged them to go on pilgrimages. They went to Medjugorje. They went to Fatima. They went to, when Brian and Chris were at Steubenville, they both consecrated themselves to Jesus through Mary. It's just a beautiful act that they did together, really, that Chris encouraged Brian to do because Chris had already done it. So again, like relationships, right? And just incredible foundation of faith that she gave both of her boys.
Well, I think, and she even explained, and you explained it so well in the book, how one of the things that she wanted to do was to impart to them the heart of God. And so to always look out for the underdog in service, in things that they did as a family, in ministries that she got involved in. Being so holistic as a mother, being pro-life and looking out for the poor in ways that we could serve, the underprivileged in anything that we could do. So she was being a beautiful witness, as a mother could be, to say, boys, you got to get God's heart here, because God's heart is in these people and the ways that we're going to serve and love.
Well, Gretchen, Thankfully, we have tomorrow to continue to unpack this terrible yet wonderful story where God can take evil and turn it to good, and take the curse and turn it into blessing, and take death and turn it into life. So we'll speak with you further tomorrow. So God bless you, and God bless all of your loved ones. Keep it on EWTN. You're an important part of this family. You're never alone. You're always at home with Jim and Joy. Bye now.